On the morning of November 17, 2025, Londoners awoke to a city transformed. Instead of the familiar muted palette of autumn grays, the sky above was ablaze with deep sepia and burnt orange hues, as if the entire city had been dipped in a painter's wash of fire and dust. The air shimmered with an otherworldly glow, and the first rays of sunlight filtered through a thick, smoky veil, casting long, surreal shadows across the waking metropolis. It was not the usual autumn gray that Londoners had come to expect, but something far more unsettling, a sky that seemed to belong to another world entirely. From the iconic arches of Tower Bridge to the leafy avenues of Richmond, the sun glowed a deep, ominous red. Its light was filtered and strange, painting the city in shades of copper and gold, and making even the most familiar landmarks appear alien and unfamiliar. The city's rivers and parks shimmered with an eerie, metallic sheen, as if London itself had been transported to the surface of another planet. The air was heavy and thick, tinged with the acrid scent of distant fire. Each breath carried a faint sting, a reminder that something was deeply amiss. People instinctively reached for masks and scarves, their faces etched with confusion and concern as they stepped into the smoky streets. Across the United Kingdom, from bustling cities to quiet villages, people emerged from their homes, blinking in disbelief at the strange daylight. The usual morning chorus of birds was subdued, their songs muffled by the haze. An eerie silence hung in the air, broken only by the distant hum of traffic and the soft rustle of leaves. Social media feeds quickly filled with photos and videos of the bizarre sky. Hashtags trended as people shared their awe, confusion, and growing anxiety. The digital world buzzed with speculation and wonder, as images of the orange haze spread far beyond the UK, capturing the attention of millions around the globe. Streetlights programmed for the gloom of night flickered on in the middle of the day, casting pools of artificial light onto pavements already bathed in an unnatural glow. Parks, monuments, and city squares, so familiar to Londoners, looked like scenes from a science fiction film, their outlines blurred and distorted by the thick smoky air. This was no local phenomenon. The orange sky was the final act of a journey that had begun thousands of miles away, across the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean. Animated maps traced the path of a massive smoke plume, carried by high-altitude winds from the western United States all the way to the British Isles. The haze that enveloped London was a ghostly messenger, drifting silently from a catastrophe on another continent. It was as if the very breath of disaster had crossed oceans to settle over the city, a visible reminder of the world's fragility. This was the breath of a great fire, a stark, undeniable sign of our interconnected world. The smoke was not just a meteorological event, but a warning, a symbol of how climate change and environmental crises can reach across borders, affecting lives and landscapes far from their origin. The story written in the sky began in the sun-scorched hills of Southern California, where wildfires raged with unprecedented ferocity. Flames devoured forests and homes, sending plumes of smoke high into the atmosphere. That smoke, carried by the jet stream, traveled thousands of miles before finally descending over Britain, turning the sky into a canvas of warning and remembrance. For a brief moment, the world felt smaller and more fragile than ever before. Londoners gazed upward, awed and unsettled, reminded that the boundaries between nations and continents are more porous than we imagine. The orange sky was a call to awareness, a vivid sign that what happens in one corner of the world can touch us all, no matter how distant we may seem. The smoke's origin was a series of catastrophic wildfires in Los Angeles County, California. What began as a few isolated blazes quickly escalated into a crisis of historic proportions, overwhelming local resources and sending shockwaves across the state. The 2025 fire season, soon dubbed the LA Inferno, shattered all previous records for both speed and destruction. Flames raced across the landscape, devouring everything in their path, leaving firefighters and residents with little time to react. Years of relentless drought had left the land bone dry, and a punishing heatwave, intensified by the notorious Santa Ana winds, transformed the region into a vast tinderbox. These winds, gusting at hurricane force, carried embers for miles, igniting new fires faster than crews could contain them. The fires grew so intense that they created their own weather systems, towering pyrocumulus clouds that generated lightning, further fueling the inferno. Smoke and ash, billowed thousands of feet into the atmosphere, darkening skies for miles around. Entire communities were wiped off the map, with neighborhoods reduced to smoldering ruins. The financial toll soared into the tens of billions, as insurance claims and rebuilding costs mounted with each passing day. Yet, the true cost could not be measured in dollars alone. Families returned to find their homes reduced to ashes, their lives upended in an instant. Wildlife fled the flames, and fragile ecosystems were left scarred, some perhaps beyond recovery. Firefighters and emergency crews battled day and night, risking their lives against walls of fire that moved faster and burned hotter than anything they had ever faced. Despite their heroic efforts, the scale of the disaster was overwhelming. The smoke produced was so vast and dense that it was visible from space. A dark, sprawling scar stretching across the continent, a stark reminder of the firestorm's magnitude. This immense plume was about to cross an entire ocean, carried by powerful winds. In a matter of days, the disaster in California would ripple across the globe, connecting the fate of Los Angeles to the daily lives of people as far away as the UK. How did California's smoke reach the UK? The answer lies in the power of our planet's atmosphere. The wildfire's heat created updrafts that launched smoke miles into the stratosphere. There, the smoke hitched a ride on the jet stream, a high-altitude wind that circles the globe. In the stratosphere, with little weather or rain, the smoke traveled thousands of miles undisturbed. Satellite images tracked the plume as it crossed the Atlantic in just over a week. The particles, smaller than a human hair, stayed suspended like a gas. As the smoke reached the UK, weather patterns drew it down into the lower atmosphere, mixing it with local air. A 5,000-mile journey ended with a haze that transformed British skies. When the smoke arrived, the UK's sunlight changed dramatically. The sky glowed orange, as smoke particles scattered blue light and let reds and yellows shine through. The sun became a deep red disk, visible without discomfort, a sight reported nationwide. Social media filled with photos of the red sun, fueling fascination and concern. Solar panels saw drops in output, and in some places it felt like dusk at midday. The world seemed quieter, colors muted under the orange haze. Photographers and artists captured the apocalyptic scene, but for most, the mood was somber. The sky's color was a visible symptom of a distant disaster. It was a reminder that the air was no longer clean. The spectacle was beautiful, but it was also a warning. The smoke's arrival was more than visual, it was sensory. A faint acrid smell of burning wood or plastic filled the air, even indoors. The haze reduced visibility, blurring hills and city skylines alike. A fine dust settled on cars and windowsills, a physical reminder of California's fires. After rain, dirty streaks revealed the foreign particles coating surfaces. Many closed windows and stayed indoors, trying to keep the smell and dust out. Outdoor activities were curtailed. The air felt heavier, less fresh. The simple act of breathing was different, thicker, more labored. The combination of smell, haze, and dust made the distant disaster feel immediate. It was an environmental siege, subtle but inescapable. As the smoke lingered, health concerns mounted. Fine particles, known as PM 2.5, can penetrate deep into the lungs and bloodstream. Health authorities issued warnings, especially for those with asthma or heart conditions. Hospitals saw a rise in respiratory complaints, coughs, wheezing, and chest tightness. Air purifiers sold out as people tried to protect themselves indoors. The psychological toll was real. Anxiety grew as the invisible threat persisted. The event was a stark lesson in how quickly air quality can become a crisis. It revealed just how vulnerable we are to events happening far beyond our borders. Scientists raced to explain the event. Using satellite data, they traced the smoke's journey and confirmed its Californian origin. Pyrocumulonimbus clouds, fire-driven thunderstorms, had injected smoke into the stratosphere. The stratosphere's stability allowed the smoke to travel undisturbed across the Atlantic. Chemical analysis revealed the smoke's evolving composition as it mixed with other atmospheric gases. The event provided valuable data for understanding long-range pollution. Scientists warned that as the climate warms, such events will become more common. The orange skies were a symptom of a global problem, not a freak occurrence. The 2025 smoke event was a wake-up call for the world. It was a moment that forced millions to stop and pay attention, as thick choking smoke blanketed cities and towns, turning day into night and making the air nearly unbreathable. For days, people everywhere watched in disbelief as the skies darkened and the sun disappeared behind a veil of ash. It proved that environmental disasters are never truly local. The smoke didn't respect borders or boundaries. It drifted across countries and continents, carried by winds that connect us all. What started as a regional crisis quickly became a global emergency, affecting people thousands of miles from the original fires. The smoke revealed the global circulatory system of our atmosphere. Pollution knows no borders. Satellite images showed plumes stretching across oceans, reminding us that the air we breathe is shared by everyone on Earth. The event made it clear, our actions and our disasters ripple outward in ways we can't always predict. Public health systems were caught off guard, highlighting the need for global preparedness. Hospitals filled with patients suffering from respiratory problems, and medical staff scrambled to keep up. The crisis exposed gaps in our readiness and underscored the importance of international cooperation in the face of environmental threats. For many, climate change became personal. They could see, smell, and feel its effects in their daily lives. The smoke seeped into homes, schools, and workplaces, making it impossible to ignore. People who had never thought much about climate change suddenly found themselves living through its consequences. The event deepened public understanding of our interconnectedness and the urgency of climate action. News outlets around the world covered the story, showing images of smoky skies from different continents and sharing the voices of those affected. The shared experience brought people together, sparking conversations about what must be done to prevent future disasters. It was a humbling reminder of nature's power and our dependence on stable, natural systems. The wildfires consumed vast forests, destroyed homes, and left behind scorched earth, showing just how vulnerable we are when nature's balance is disrupted. The smoke was a warning from the planet, one we can't afford to ignore. It was a signal that our current path is unsustainable, and that urgent action is needed to protect our health, our environment, and our future. The orange skies were not just a spectacle, they were a call to action. They served as a visual alarm, urging leaders and citizens alike to take responsibility and demand change. Our future depends on how we respond. The choices we make now will determine whether we continue down a path of crisis or whether we come together to build a safer, healthier world for generations to come. The aftermath of the smoke event made one thing clear. Global problems need global solutions. We must strengthen international monitoring, satellites, sensors, and predictive models to track pollution worldwide. Clear protocols for communication and response are essential, with organizations like the WHO and WMO coordinating alerts and advice. But the root cause is climate change, and only global cooperation can address it. Nations must commit to reducing emissions, investing in renewables, and sharing resources and knowledge. The orange skies of 2025 were a glimpse of a possible future, but not an inevitable one. This event can be a catalyst for a new era of environmental stewardship. The smoke is cleared, but its lesson must remain. We all share one sky and one fate.